And a day after it brought out its manifesto for the Lok Sabha polls, the Congress party is facing the heat on the subject of weakening provisions that protect the armed forces in disturbed areas. The Prime Minister said that the Congress party intends to remove provisions that protect the security forces against terrorists. Let's look at this report. A day after the Congress party released its manifesto, which the ruling BJP condemned as dangerous for its casual approach to national security, Defence Minister Nirmala Sitharaman came down heavily on the Congress for wanting to review both AFSPA and the Disturbed Areas Act. The Congress manifesto says, the Armed Forces Special Powers Act and the Disturbed Areas Act in Jammu and Kashmir will be reviewed. Suitable changes will be made in the text of the laws to balance the requirements of security and the protection of human rights. Prime Minister Narendra Modi took up the issue at a rally in Siliguri, West Bengal. He questioned how the Congress manifesto could even think of reviewing AFSPA, which protects the security forces from terrorists.
AFSPA सुरक्षा बलों के लिए एक कवच है ताकि वो सही तरीके से आतंकियों से निपट सके, लेकिन क्योंकि इनको अपनी सेना पर विश्वास नहीं है, सेना के नियम कायदों, देश के नियम कानून पर विश्वास नहीं है, इसलिए ऐसा वादा करने की हिम्मत ये लोग कर रहे हैं। हमारे वीर जवानों को खतरे में डालने वाली साजिश को आप सभी को नाकाम करना है।
BJP President Amit Shah warned the Congress that the BJP is standing like a rock against AFSPA's removal.
सेना के जवान सीमा पर लगे रहते हैं, अलग अलग प्रकार के आरोप लगते हैं उन पर, उनकी सुरक्षा के लिए अब सफा का कानून बनाया गया। सेना के जवानों को सुरक्षा देनी चाहिए या नहीं देनी चाहिए भी, उनके समर्थन में कानून होना चाहिए नहीं होना चाहिए। ये कांग्रेस पार्टी कहती है अपने मैनिफेस्टो के अंदर कि अब सपा को हम हटा लेंगे। मैं कहना चाहता हूं राहुल बाबा, आपकी पूरी पार्टी की औकात नहीं है सेना के जवानों को रिलीव करने।
Besides AFSPA review, to other promises like repeal of sedition, the BJP says law enforcement agencies have been forced on the back foot with their hands and legs bound. This, they suggest, indirectly empowers Maoists, separatists and terrorists. The Congress party in its manifesto proposes to omit IPC section 124A, which deals with sedition, alleging its misuse and redundancy. The Congress manifesto also proposes to scrap IPC section 499 on criminal defamation, making it a civil offence instead. Senior BJP leader and Defence Minister Nirmala Sitharaman charged the Congress party with showing scant respect for the supreme sacrifice of security personnel, because despite saying they would accord martyr status to armed forces personnel who die in the line of duty, the Congress is putting them in the line of fire after removing their protections. She took this point further by highlighting the weakening of powers of the district magistrate as well to take up preemptive measures to prevent unlawful assemblies via social media.
क्या कांग्रेस के मैनिफेस्टो के द्वारा प्रत्यक्ष और अप्रत्यक्ष रूप में अलगाववादी के मदद करने वाले बातें हैं उनके मैनिफेस्टो में, उसका मैं हाईलाइट करके ये चाहती हूं कि कांग्रेस इसमें स्पष्टीकरण दे देश के लिए। क्या आपके मैनिफेस्टो के द्वारा अलगाववादी की मदद में आप मैनिफेस्टो लिख रही हो?
Finance Minister Arun Jaitley too had tweeted wondering whether the Congress's consultations with Lieutenant General Huda were mere optics. Clearly, the Congress's election manifesto is causing a few problems for them on a key central government function of national security. With inputs from Shailendra Mishra, DD News. So this leads us to our In Focus point for tonight, and this is it. In Focus: is the Congress manifesto a threat to national security? It's a question that we are asking based on what the BJP has said. Is the Congress manifesto a threat to national security? To help us understand this, we have with us Praful Ketkar, who is the editor of Organizer, and P.K. Mishra, Pravas Kumar Mishra, is a former Additional Director General of the BSF and is a senior fellow at the Vivekananda International Foundation. Thank you, gentlemen, for being with us. We'll start with you, Mr. Mishra. You have been with the security forces, so tell us, why do the armed forces, why do the security forces need AFSPA in disturbed areas?
Yes, Mark, you have asked a very good question. I have gone through this manifesto of Congress, but the question you have asked, why we need AFSPA in in the most disturbed area. It may be Mizoram, it may be Nagaland, it may be Manipur, it may be whole of Jammu and Kashmir.
Right.
You have called the government, the state government and the central government, you have called the defense forces and the paramilitary forces where the things are not under the control, and you want security forces to be there to maintain normalcy. For that, for the safety of our security forces, we need some law to protect ourselves.
Right.
Like you have seen in Gogoi's case, you have seen so many stone pelting cases in Kashmir.
Okay.
You have seen so many police personnel, CRPF and BSF personnel being massacred by Naxalites in improvised explosive devices. So there are a lot of threat to the lives of our forces.
Yes.
I can well tell you, suppose in Kashmir, we apprehend some persons, or in firing some persons have been killed, and if AFSPA is withdrawn and it
Okay.
is not there for us, what will happen? There will be
Prosecution.
police cases against
Yes.
us, and all of a whole the life, even after retirement, this gentleman will be running around the court in Jammu and Kashmir and in Naxal affected areas, and
Absolutely.
and he will be facing problem. That is what we need, the protection. Our troops, particularly the Sainiks, the Jawans,
Okay.
they require this protection and law to cover them.
So Praful Ketkar, what political purpose can be served in in toning down or diluting AFSPA as the Congress wants to do?
See, actually, if you go through the entire manifesto of the Congress Party, it talks about the Kam and the Dam and Shan and Swabhiman. A new terminology you find
Okay.
in Congress manifesto. That clearly shows that some impact of the Modi style of acronyms are being used. There seems to be some groundwork that is being done as far as various economic and social welfare measures are concerned. But somehow I don't know why this particular point, and this is not just about Congress. Interestingly, the same points were mentioned in the CPM manifesto day before yesterday, and the same points as today Ms. Mehbooba Mufti said that it is being mentioned even in the PDP manifesto.
Okay.
Why these particular points are being raised now? It's clearly, see, we should not forget that AFSPA was brought under the Congress regime.
Okay.
And recently, in last 3-4 years, we have seen that there are certain areas where AFSPA was removed. Tripura is the classic case because entire state
Right.
is now out of
Right.
AFSPA.
Right.
Major chunk of Arunachal is out of AFSPA.
Yes.
It clearly shows that where, and there are percentage, 80%, 85%, violence or insurgency related or militancy related incidents have gone down. AFSPA has already, already
That's
out.
right. Yeah.
So, the key point that should be learned from a northeastern lesson is when there is a decline in insurgency, armed
Right.
forces are not there for their own happiness.
Absolutely.
Governments have called them.
Right.
So I don't know. I think this is a major mistake that has made by Congress strategies
Okay.
by bringing these
Certainly.
points at this juncture, and that's how the entire work that is supposed to be focused actually, because Mr. Rahul Gandhi has already built
Right.
certain momentum around 72,000 and other social welfare schemes, that is completely gone out. And again,
Okay.
social security, national security in Jammu Kashmir has brought to the focus.
So, Mr. P.K. Mishra, the fact is that the security forces already use a humane approach in dealing with the situation. I mean, the use of force is the last resort, and they're already trying to win over the people who are under their influence through other means, through development, through other means.
Absolutely.
So, this idea of balancing doesn't quite arise at all, does it?
Yes, I can well tell you, yes, our security forces, you see Kashmir, see we are just de-radicalizing the youth, the army and the defense forces, the paramilitary forces, they are going all out and they are recruiting a lot of youths in that area, and they are being taken to Jammu and Kashmir police, JKLF battalions and all, and a lot of development and progress in those areas, and particularly the young generation, they are being channelized properly.
And
So,
suitable warnings are being given. If you
And-
take up the gun, you will perish by it.
very clearly, General Bipin
Right.
Rawat has already
Absolutely.
stated, yes, if you take a gun in your hand, definitely you are going to be killed. That that has to be done, and that is our AFSPA is there to protect them. And we have got a system also. We are having our court-martial system. If we find any one of us, they misbehave with civilians,
Okay.
and we go out of our purview, they are at court-martial. Even with Gogoi case, he has been punished.
Yes.
So many persons have been punished in Kashmir. But if you want to withdraw now, like Congress in their manifesto, they have told that we will be making with
Well, they're talking about
the strength of
that's right.
army in Kashmir.
They're talking about reviewing it and balancing it.
It is
Yeah.
very, very dangerous proposal. I can tell it goes against the national security, and they should immediately withdraw this one, what they have stated. This
Okay.
is not correct.
Let's put it also into an international context, Praful Ketkar, because Jammu and Kashmir is not only is it a disturbed state, it is a state which has illegal occupation of Pakistan in Pakistan occupied Kashmir, and also illegal occupation of China in some part of Jammu and Kashmir. So with both these adversaries there, demoralizing the armed forces will send a very poor signal, doesn't it?
It is not, I would call it an illegal occupation rather, because legally still it, India
No, I
has,
said illegal occupation. Did I say illegal? Did I?
so illegal occupation.
I said illegal. I meant illegal.
occupation.
Yeah, I said illegal occupation.
Sorry.
Yeah. All right.
So that illegal occupation, and not just illegal occupation, the kind of infiltration and interference by the external forces that has been happening,
Right.
and the way internal forces are manipulating this external intervention to maintain especially the valley or certain areas of valley as their fiefdom. That has been the key issue. If you see the the reactions from the common Kashmiris in last few months, you will clearly get the signal that they are looking for the development, they are looking for opportunities. They are, and armed forces are playing very constructive role in that process. But unfortunately, the political process, what they call as the political solution and political issue, they are ensuring that this derailment takes place of any development activity. They don't want any accountability. So they have created all the hurdles. So the complete constitutional provisions and governance machinery is not implemented there, and then they are saying that this is a disturbed area. Okay, on your request, this is a disturbed area, so AFSPA was called. External enemies there, the threat is there. We have seen that again and again. So it is a dual threat. It is not just the internal issue; it is external issue as well. So Jammu Kashmir is not just a political issue, it has a security ramifications. And if you are saying that we are open for dialogue, we have seen what has happened to earlier efforts. For democratic process, peaceful dialogue is welcome with anybody, but it cannot be conditional, it cannot be in support with Pakistan, it cannot be tripartite, it has to be within the framework of the Constitution of India.
Okay.
And Jammu Kashmir Constitution is also bound by that. Unless somebody accepts this basic premise, there is no process, there is no possibility of dialogue.
Sure.
So I don't think, I don't know under which political or electoral consideration Congress has come up with these
Well, this is one
promises.
provision, but let's talk about the other provisions also. The provision of saying that sedition and also defamation are outdated. They don't need it. We don't need them anymore. But PK Mishra, let's look at the issue of sedition itself. It can be a dangerous issue, even though the state, the country is quite large in the terms of the population, is able to control these kind of dissenting voices. It doesn't really, the country may have the capacity, but within it, I mean, if you allow these kind of streams without any law to control it, we are not quite ready for that, is it?
Fine, absolutely. The manifesto now tells that they want to repeal section 124A of
Yes,
IPC.
that's right.
I can well tell you, we have just seen what has happened in JNU. We know what is all happening in Odisha and Dandakar, in Bastar and those areas, in Naxal affected areas. You see, look into Hardik Patel's case and so many cases and shouting slogans against the country, against the national interest, against the national security. So what's all happening now? Somebody is even telling last 2 days, we want a prime minister post now in Kashmir, another prime minister post. Forget about that political part, I am not talking. But in sedition charge, I am telling you, if the law is not there, if we cannot control this type of hoodlums, those who are going against the national security policy, they have to be brought under some circumstance, they have to be kept under control. Otherwise, our system, our the problem, security problem of our country will be definitely facing problem, and we have to set them right. And the law must continue, and if we repeal this 124A, I hope we are going to face a lot of problem in those areas, like what happened in JNU, and it is going to happen more and more in every state. It will happen.
So, Praful Ketkar, now again, what is the political message that, or what kind of political advantage will the Congress try and gain by removing sedition, or even saying that it is outdated and redundant?
See, I want to make 3 quick points. First of all, we need to understand that our constitution has enough protection as far as the freedom of speech is concerned and other freedoms are concerned, and judiciary time and again has interpreted them in a very positive light to ensure free speech.
Right.
Now, as far as this Congress promise is concerned, there are 2 inherent contradictions in this. First is, we shouldn't forget that for all these years, Congress not just continued with the sedition law, but Congress effectively or ineffectively used and misused these laws. Now, take the example of Kodai Canal, for example. It was a protest against nuclear plant. Whether certain NGOs supported by external agencies were involved or not involved, one can debate over it. But not less than 6,000 cases were registered under the same act under UPA 2.
Okay.
Secondly, the same manifesto talks about a stringent and a strong laws against the hate crimes. So you want to bring in certain laws that will curb individual liberty. So it is definitely a political strategy by Congress to address certain sections of the society and protect their the allies that have been ideologically in tune with them. But again, what kind of message you are giving? Because you are the party who fought during the freedom struggle, you are the party who were part of the constitution making process, and under the same constitution you have governed almost for 60 years in this country, for 55 years in this country. After that, if you are suddenly giving these promises, what kind of message you want to give to the country? That is the real problematic issue as far as the sedition law is concerned.
Supposing P.K. Mishra, to play the devil's advocate, the Congress is really trying to give the power to the people and reduce the power of the government. They will say that in a sort of a let's say in a theoretical sense, this is too much power with the government is bringing in a sort of a police state. Well, we should be a democracy shouldn't be quite like that. Is that sort of an argument even possible under these kind of circumstances with this law of sedition?
I can well tell you, Mark, that if we give this type of power to the civilians and demoralize and withdraw this and repeal this section 124A IPC, and this sedition charges will not be there against anybody, it's very, very difficult to control this type of situation in a democratic country. And the democrat.
You don't believe there are enough safeguards already in the constitution, as Mr. Praful Ketkar said? There are already safeguards, the courts are there, the institutions already are in place.
It is there. And he just told that UPA 2 has already utilized it in more than 6,000 cases.
So the argument, if the UPA is doing it, had done it, or if the NDA
is must.
The question is that it's liable to be misused, is what the Congress is saying.
Of course, the Congress is telling that it may be misused. In such cases, wherever the misuse is there, definitely the people themselves will protest. There are ways and means to look into this, and there will be political approach, there will be court also to help us, and both judiciary and executive and political combined, they can help us. But this is not there just to wipe out the sedition charges. That will take us to nowhere.
Praful Ketkar, do we require to have such a strong state with all these provisions at this current time? I mean, is this an interpretation that the state is strong? Actually, the state is normal.
See, I completely agree that there is a interpretation, and this kind of interpretation has been discussed in various cases, even in the judiciary. See, please remember that in 1949 itself, first time when such laws were used in independent India, court had given verdicts in favor of individuals against the state. That's why particularly this provision in 1902 putting certain restrictions on free speech was brought, and unity and integrity of the nation was put at the foremost. And whenever there is a threat, state and government has a right to put certain restrictions on such freedom. So what I am saying is there are safeguards. The restrictions are specifically mentioned. Remedial measures are suggested to approach the court. In such case, in such scenario, there can be discussion and debate about what can be the possible amendments. But this kind of promise, just because something happened in certain campuses or certain mindsets are being exposed in last few years, you are coming with a political agenda regarding sedition case. I think this is a dangerous ploy.
Okay, also let's try and put into context, Mr. Mishra, the current circumstances that we are living in. We've talked about it to a large extent, but is it necessary for the state to have, I mean, this particular election is for the government of the center, and we look at national security as a role and function actually of the central government. Is it important to have so much power with the central government, or can these actually law and order be maintained by the state?
Yes, law and order definitely
is a state subject otherwise.
It is a state subject definitely.
But this is national security.
Look into this, you take into left-wing extremist. Do you think even now also, maybe Chhattisgarh, maybe West Bengal, maybe Odisha, maybe Maharashtra, it's not a state subject now. Automatically it is transferred to central forces and central government, and most of the central forces are available deployed in these areas. So you can't always tell. There are some ways where the state can handle. But in most of the cases, if state will not be able to handle a particular law and order situation, definitely the central forces and the central government has to interfere, and the provision is there. They have to interfere.
So, Praful Ketkar, AFSPA is not really imposed by the center. It is in consonance with the state. The state which is having trouble with these kind of
they give a request to the center.
Actually approach the center, and that's when the center comes in. And this is a necessity for the armed forces, especially to be able to fulfill their responsibilities in bringing about law and order in these particular disturbed areas. So this is particularly necessary even at this time.
It is necessary. It is necessary to give protection to the armed forces to perform their duty, and their duty is clearly defined in the act itself, to bring in normalcy, not law and order, normalcy, so that the local police and administration can handle this. But there is a bigger contradiction in this. You cannot say, see, if you want to have a lesser state and lesser government and more governance, the basic law is it cannot be just in law and order thing. It has to be also in economic thing. On the other hand, you are saying that we will make people more dependent through various social security schemes. We will bring in reservations even in private sector, but we will remove laws. So this is a contradictory, means ideologically it is a contradictory approach. You have to, if state has to retreat, then state has to retreat in all fields. Then freedom should be absolute. Can in a society like India, can we afford really to have a complete so-called liberal quote-unquote state? That is the key question that needs to be answered while analyzing this manifesto.
Absolutely, and we leave it on. We leave it at that point. Thank you very much, Praful Ketkar and P.K. Mishra, for joining us in the studio on this discussion on the Congress's manifesto and its and the BJP's allegation that it is against national security.